happening right now. There's been a whitewashing, not just out in the country, but by leadership in the Republican Party about what happened on that day, despite the fact many of the people dismissing it were there and experienced it themselves. That's why I think it's important to tell Officer Fanone's story. We heard some of it from his own testimony before Congress last week. But what did he tell you about what he went through that day and what he's been feeling since then?
Well, a lot of what we talked about is how abandoned he has felt in the aftermath of January 6th. You know, this is the man who suffered the most severe non-lethal injuries of any officer who responded that day. He went there voluntarily. He was supposed to be doing an evening shift on his narcotics job, and he rushed into danger to save American democracy. And ever since then, what he's found is that he doesn't have a lot of friends and allies in the law enforcement community, and he doesn't have a lot of friends and allies in the Republican Party, and even in the Democratic Party. There are a lot of people who don't necessarily want to hear what a redneck cop has to say about how we should support law enforcement in this country. So he's a man alone. He's a man whose story needs to be heard. He's a man who's determined to fight for the truth, no matter what it costs him, and it's cost him everything.
Well, and you're right, Molly. You said some people don't want to hear what a redneck cop has to say about law enforcement and how law enforcement should be supported. He finds himself in an interesting position. He actually seems to cut the mold in many ways. First of all, as being a cop, being somebody who would naturally support Donald Trump.
Yeah, and he did vote for Donald Trump in 2016, and we talked a lot about the reasons for that and how, you know, as a white cop patrolling black neighborhoods, which is what his job basically consisted of, he felt that liberal politicians and the media had created divisions in society and turned people against the police. Now, you can agree with that or not, but there are a lot of cops who felt that way, right? There's a lot of people with whom Trump's message of Blue Lives Matter, as clumsy and perhaps not actually followed through on, as you can say it was, but that resonated with a lot of people in law enforcement who felt like they weren't getting a lot of support in other places. And so, you know, this is a guy who, like I said, he's culturally conservative, calls himself a redneck, likes nothing better than, you know, hunting and fishing and being with his family. And he's been dragged into this political fight, but he's not going to back down.
How disconcerting it must be for him to be somebody who's culturally conservative, who obviously supports cops, said some things that liberals would find disconcerting as well. And yet here he is. He finds himself on January the 6th being beaten, brutalized by American flags, by people carrying Blue Lives Matter flags. It's got to be so vertiginous for him and the rest of the police officers that went through this.
Yeah, and you know, there are serious consequences to the lies that are being told. We have already had 4 officers who responded on January 6th who have died by suicide, who've taken their own lives. One of them just last week, 2 days after Officer Fanone testified before Congress. And this is somebody that Officer Fanone knew and worked with for many years. So this emotional strain, this trauma, this not being believed and not having you know, society sort of rally around these guys who I think are heroes. It's taken a real toll, and it's taken a toll on Officer Fanone as well. He really struggles with a lot of it, and you know, I think that's the importance of this story beyond just one man's life. The importance of this story is that, you know, what I think the January 6th committee is trying to do, and what I think we need to do, is to face what happened on January 6th and not just try to move on and really try to come to terms with what led to what happened on that day.